plan for Western Washington to help address the homeless crisis.
Yeah, Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkan and King County Executive Doug Constantine unveiling a regional strategy yesterday. The King County Regional Homelessness Authority would create a board of appointees. The board would coordinate the entire county's approach to battling homelessness rather than have each city try and deal with it on its own. We've got Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkan joining our Brandi Kruse this morning to talk more about this plan. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Mayor, thank you for being here.
You bet. Good morning.
So first, it's important for people to understand this is just a plan. So you haven't had any cities, there's 38 cities in King County, officially sign on to this plan yet.
We haven't, but we've been working with mayors from cities throughout the county. You know, there's 39 cities, some small, some medium, some big. Lots of the mayors were there yesterday, and we've all got the same goals. And so as this gets finalized, I'm fairly hopeful and confident that other cities will join once they see the value in it.
If they don't join, is it truly a regional approach? Do you need them to make this thought successful?
It will be a regional approach, and I think they will. I think you've already seen movement. People need to understand what this was. This wasn't a chance. This is not trying to do a one-size, Seattle-size-fits-all. As you know, Seattle has a lot of different approaches than other cities and towns in the county.
Correct.
And people have to be able to craft their own solutions. But we also know homelessness doesn't stop at city limits. And we've seen, you know, reporting just this last weekend of small towns who are being divided around issues created on homelessness. So we've got to do what works. We have to do it smart. We have to see what's working, hold it accountable, and then scale that. And what works in Auburn or Kent or Bellevue may work differently than it works in Seattle. But if we combine our resources, then we can actually make more progress.
Well, and this is actually kind of one of the concerns here. So Reagan Dunn, a King County council member, it doesn't really buy into this idea, at least yet. And I want to play for you, if we can make sure that the mayor can hear this, what Reagan had to say about his primary concern about this idea. Watch.
The concern I have is the city of Seattle arguably has the highest percentage per capita of homeless people anywhere in the United States of America. And the idea of further promulgating those policies to a group of unelected bureaucrats concerns me.
So, I mean, I don't have the statistics to know whether we truly have the highest per capita population of homeless people, but basically what he's saying there is he's worried that Seattle has failed on homelessness. So why is Seattle going to lead the way on a regional approach to homelessness and maybe take some of those failed policies to other towns?
Well, see, that's a great question. And actually, it's not Seattle leading the way. It's Seattle actually is taking the biggest leap of faith here, because we are tying our raft to rafts and putting in the largest financial contribution, but knowing that we've got to get other cities around the region to join to make a difference. You know, regularly now over the last number of years, about half at least of the people that we're serving directly in Seattle were not Seattle residents when they became homeless. Mm-hmm. Many of them, a large percentage of those, were from other cities in King County. And they are in Seattle because that's where the services are and for a number of other reasons. We've got to find a way to get those people services where they live, to keep them connected there and find them housing there. Because in the long run, that's when they'll do better. So really, I think that this will show, I think what the cities and counties will see is, you know, nobody has an iron curtain. This problem is everywhere, and if we don't face the challenge together, it will only get worse.
You know, you actually talked about this during that big snowstorm we had in February. Who bussed homeless people up?
Federal Way, yeah.
Federal Way, and we had said, well, they need shelters there. So is this something that could help with that?
I think it is, and I think it's just like I talked to the mayor of Auburn yesterday, Nancy Backus, and they just passed the thing. They're going to have basically a one-stop shop place that has shelter, food bank, services, behavioral health. And for them, that'll work because of the scale of the issues in their town. They've got to come to their own solutions to help people stay in community but get the services they need.
But one of the other things that Reagan Dunn said, you know, playing devil's advocate, is this is just shirking responsibility from elected leaders. I mean, you guys love your panels and your working groups and you know, your boards and stuff. Shouldn't you guys just come together as elected leaders and make these decisions for yourselves rather than appointing a 7-member board of political appointees to try to make the decisions for you?
Yeah, and actually Reagan has it a little bit wrong. It's not, it's a separate legal entity that's going to have all the authority. What we wanted to do is to make sure it remained accountable to the people. So the elected leaders are a steering committee that have to approve the budget, approve the appointees, approve the plan. But you want that governing board to be, I think, protected a little bit from the politics that have surrounded homelessness. So that it's not about favoritism and who the providers are that we like. It's about what works. And they're going to be experts who know how to manage money, who've had background and experience in this expertise. And so really you will have a professional response is really what, it's one of the things we've been lacking here.
But is this just red tape? I mean, you guys had this thing called One Table in 2018 where it was supposed to bring people together to find solutions on homelessness. And now a year later, you have this regional homelessness authority that you're putting out there. Is it just like one table after another table after another table? I mean, seriously, you've got a year of let's talk about solutions, and now let's come up with this idea where they'll talk about solutions. Like, when do we get to the solutions part?
No, but see, this is the solution. So we're living in this microwave society that thinks that I can have everything today. One Table was actually the beginning of this conversation. Identify what are the problems, what are the solutions, who should be at the table, decide to fix them. This entity is taking those ideas and making it real. So with that, we were able to bring in Sound Cities and the other. And this actually, the governing body will have representatives from the outlying cities as well.
Will there be any Republicans? Will you guys allow a Republican to be appointed to this
There will
11-member
be
committee?
no political litmus test.
Do you think there'll be any conservative to maybe watch the money a little bit?
It wouldn't surprise me.
Wouldn't surprise you. Would you support that? You'd be fine with that?
As long as they've got the qualifications, background, experience, and are willing to get enrolled their sleeves and tackle the issue, not make it political, but make it about solutions,
Yeah.
That's what we're looking for.
All right, we all want solutions. Speaking of, red tape, I've hounded you a little bit in your office on
We have
this
no red
because-
tape.
Right, sure, none at all. In March, you guys announced that you were going to launch a working group to deal with the issue of often violent repeat offenders in the city of Seattle. I want to play for folks, if they weren't watching back in March, the interview that you and I had on that subject. Watch. Is this going to be a working group where you all sit around and talk about the problem, but nobody does anything?
No, so I think we have to really clearly is Seattle Police Department actually already does a very good job of trying to say where do we have significant increases in crime and what are our strategies for doing it. So we're going to continue to do our criminal enforcement. But at the meantime, we can't have a situation where courts can't hold them, you can't arrest them, and you don't get them the help that they need.
So I've been hounding your office all summer on this because I'm like, well, when are we going to hear? It's been since March. We were promised the end of summer. I suppose technically it's the end of summer. So when are we going to get some ideas on how to deal with repeat offenders?
You're going to be seeing in the next few weeks.
The next few weeks?
Yes, because we are being, as you know, I announced my budget in the next 3 weeks. We've brought the county and everyone together, and we've got some concrete proposals that we're going to be rolling out with people. Look, we've got to have a whole spectrum of solutions here. And we've got to, for some people, what they need is an intervention at the early stages to give them the help they need so they don't offend further and that they become stabilized. Other people are going to need a criminal justice intervention. And we have to have approaches along that spectrum. So you will be seeing a range of approaches here, county, city, providers, defenders, prosecutors coming together to say, let's try these approaches to see how they work. And they're going to be concrete things that we can see, measure, do they work? And if they work, let's scale them bigger. If they don't work, we're not going to keep doing the same thing.
I'm looking forward to hearing those ideas because, as you know, we've already had issues with repeat offenders from the time you announced the working group until now. And so this is one of those things where it's like time is a waste. And so we'll be looking for those ideas. We'll give them a critical eye. Will you stick with us?
Absolutely.
I want to talk to you about policing. I want to talk to you about the upcoming Seattle City Council races. We'll be back with Mayor Jenny Durkan after this break. So we've been talking about a lot of issues this morning, Mayor. One of the things I want to ask you about, your police chief, Carmen Best, took a very rare political stance. And she had some strong words for the city council. They are struggling to keep and recruit officers at SPD. There's public safety concerns that come with that. She said, we need the support of city council members. She doesn't believe that they're getting the support they need and that it's hurting morale and it's hurting their numbers. Did you give her permission to go out and say that?
See, Carmen Best is her own person, and I wouldn't say that's political. She's trying to say it as she sees it. And first thing I want to say is our police department right now is doing extraordinary work. We've had a number of investigations over the summer on homicides and assaults where the detectives have gone to work and they've gotten great results. That goes unheralded many of the times. We see the big headlines when there is a significant event, but we don't cover it as much when they do the hard work and get it. So my hat's off to the SPD right now because they really have been doing a great job on keeping the city safer.
We're talking a lot about, and we have been, I sat down at length and talked to Carmen Best about this issue, about what the city council needs to do to support officers. What are you doing? What can you do as the mayor to help support not only the officers, but getting more officers here?
Yeah, I think it's a whole range of things. Number one is we had to pay them what they were worth. They went for too many years without a contract. 2014 salary in a 2019 Seattle wasn't going to cut it. So the first thing was to pay them more and pay them what they're worth. The second is to respect them and honor them for the work that they're doing. We can hold officers accountable and have constitutional policing, at the same time recognize they do a really hard job, especially in Seattle today. It's a different city. You know, the streets of Seattle have changed so much in the last 5 years. So recognizing and then giving them the tools and the support that they need to do their job, and giving them the recognition when they do it well. The second thing we have to do is to make sure that we're working with them to see, you know, how do we recruit officers? Every city in America, major city, is having the same problem. There's fewer and fewer people going into policing right now. And so how do we make sure that we can attract the officers that we need and then keep them? And so we'll be releasing a study. We've been working with the department and some others to say, how do we recruit better, do better? And we've got some strategies we're going to be rolling out to see how do we get people. Now, we're recruiting, but we're not keeping as many officers as we'd like to do, and we have to do both. They have to know that look, at the end of the day, they're like all of us. They want to know that the job they're doing is making a difference, and that people give them support and recognize what they're doing.
You're talking about strategies and the study coming out and things you might do to help officers. I know a survey had gone out to officers to have them give their feedback. Is this something that has to go through the city council, though, to be implemented?
No, this is not. You know, we will have to have the city council approve budgets for hiring stuff, but we have a range of strategies, again, because we're seeing that there's some people who may not want to be a police officer but are interested in being a CSO. They become a CSO, and we see in other cities that once they do that, then they want to become an officer. So how do we're going to be, I think, increasing the CSO program. We're rolling it out now. How do we use that also as a place to create another tool that we have for SPD and a way to recruit people to the police department? So we've got to do more, and we've got to do better.
When can we expect to hear?
You'll be hearing that also, you know, as you know, this fall we released the budget, so everything we're going to be doing, our strategies for next year, will be released in the coming weeks.
Okay. I want to talk to you about the upcoming Seattle City Council race. Look, you've weighed in on this, you know, not in your official capacity, but to supporters. 7 of 9, we could have 7 of 9 new faces, theoretically, after the November election. Are there any of those faces you see right there that you hope don't sit on the council after this coming election?
That's a great group. You know, look,
That's
we're
very
going to
diplomatic.
That's right. We're going to see big changes. We know there's a number of people leaving. Rob Johnson already left.
Yeah, there's 4 people leaving, so no
right.
matter what.
So no matter what, it's a change. And I think that this city, it's going to be a change election. You can call it whatever you want, but I think that, you know, it's a great thing about democracy. It is messy, but there's certainty at the end. And so you're going to see, I think right now, journalists like you are going to be focused on not just kind of the sizzle, but what's the stake. What are people's real stances on issues that people care about? And every neighborhood I go to Seattle, there's things that are resonating right now.
Like what?
Homelessness is the #1 issue everywhere I go. And for different people, that means different things. But people are horribly conflicted because on the one hand, we want to do better by people. We don't want people living outside. But the other time, there's real impacts on communities that we have to be honest about and address. And so I think people are going to be asking hard questions on homelessness, on what people's approach is. Not just the phrases and the sizzle, but what are you going to do?
Right, what are you actually going to do? Get down to business.
Exactly.
If, you know, if you've gone to any city council meetings or watched them on TV, and I've been to a few in the last couple of years, I think we have some video. They have gotten so out of control. I mean, so nasty. You know, part of that is the people showing up. The citizenry needs to take responsibility a little bit for the tone of these council meetings. How do we fix this? How do we fix that?
I think I don't want to suggest city council what they should do to their business, but I tell you, I hear people don't come anymore because they're afraid of either how they're going to be treated or what the atmosphere is going to be. We have to make it a more welcoming forum if we want democracy to work. And we also have to get people out of City Hall. It's hard to get to downtown Seattle, let alone to try to find places to park. And most people work during the days or taking their kids or other things. So we got to have more meetings in the community. We have to have evening meetings. We have to do something that makes people know it's your government. This is yours. Take ownership. Let your voice be heard. Don't outsource it to other people.
One quick final question. You did send out an email to supporters of yours in one of the city council races where you endorsed a more moderate candidate. You called the other one a socialist, and you called the other candidate a rigid conservative. Do you regret doing that? You got some flack for diving into that race in the way that you did.
I think the way the juxtaposition got played was not helpful.
It was the press?
No, no, no. I
The way
think,
that you worded the
yeah,
juxtaposition.
it was not helpful, and I had some good conversations with people, particularly given the national atmosphere. It happened at the same time that there was the discussion about the 4 women congresswomen in D.C., and I think that, you know, it's my responsibility to have a more positive dialogue. And so if I were to rewind the clock, I would phrase it differently. I think the concept is real, that we have to get away from these very hard line divides of good and bad, left and right. Most people have a lot of common ground in Seattle, and we got to find that common ground if we want to make better steps as a city.
I appreciate you admitting that it could have been worded better.
It
Not
could
a lot
have.
of politicians are willing to admit, yeah, I could have done that one a little better. So, Mayor Jenny Durkan, we appreciate your time. We're going to be watching for these changes on homelessness. Sounds like we have things coming down the pipeline next week when it comes to repeat offenders, when it comes to keeping and recruiting new officers. So a lot going on.
A lot going on.
Busy time. We will put it all under the microscope. I promise
Perfect.
you.
That's
Thank
right.
you for being here. We appreciate it.